Question on the letter. We can confirm that we have received the letter from the President of the European Parliament. A reply will follow in the coming days. The Commission has repeatedly called on Member States to ensure that the humanitarian imperative comes first and that solutions are found for persons rescued at sea.
You know, it really appears there is no depths that the powers that be will not stoop to when it comes to their efforts to insult the intelligence of the very people they seek to convince. The concept of humanitarian obligations falls short of the wayside as far as I'm concerned, as in reality, these people are migrants being trafficked by NGOs. They're not helpless individuals who'd have drowned if it wasn't for the miraculous arrival of a search and rescue boat. These search and rescue boats encourage these people, and these NGOs know this. That's exactly why they're there in the first place, to beat the Libyan Coast Guard, to make sure that these people are taken over here instead of being taken back to Libya. And of course the UN have come out to try and highlight the fact they can't be taken back to Libya. It's a breach of human rights. It's incumbent on nobody to go through the motions of opening their doors to refugees, all the while knowing that they're not refugees. The NGOs are seemingly dictating when people need to act upon their so-called duties. This so-called crisis will continue to be a so-called crisis for the foreseeable future until such times where they have convinced enough of the populace, nationwide, worldwide even, that the safe and regular and orderly migration is an essential part of the future to make sure that the perils of the Mediterranean fall short.
Our efforts to support and coordinate such solutions have continued unabated. Yep, a question there in the very back.
Bonjour, juste un follow-up. Est-ce que vous n'avez toujours pas reçu de demande de médiation sur le Open Arms?
When it comes to, I guess you're speaking about the Open Arm vessel, when it comes to that vessel, the Commission has not initiated coordination as there's been no request by a member state. We have, however, and independently of the letter received from the President of the European Parliament, reached out to member states, asking them to show solidarity and to contribute to finding a solution for the persons on board.
Solidarity is another word that they will throw about the place as a means to, again, insult the intelligence of the very people they intend to convince. Solidarity, showing solidarity to a bunch of communists on boats taking people over here because the UN told them to do so. The plight, the humanitarian plight. Show solidarity, show compassion. Open your doors, open your borders, open your ports. And of course, you allow these people in, that boat is now empty. What do you think that boat's going to go and do? Go and fill up again. Mainstream media will have you believe that Libya is a war zone and the migrants that traverse Africa in order to get to Libya to then jump on a boat with inflatable life jackets to head towards Europe end up in danger. Why has nothing been done to stop any more entering Libya to begin with? There's nothing been done to deter them from going to Libya, but there's a hell of a lot being done to encourage all the people that end up in Libya to come over here. And then it goes a bit further where they then try to propagate consensus nationwide or European-wide that solidarity must be shown, compassion and so on and so forth. The plight of these migrants that really shouldn't be there, really shouldn't be here. But you have to ask yourself, why are they there? Why are they on these boats? Why are they here? What gave them the inside scoop, the knowledge? What gave them the kick up the arse to decide to enter Europe illegally? Or at the very least be picked up by an NGO and have them do it for them? You know, this wasn't happening 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 7 years ago. But for the best part of 6 or so years, this fake crisis continues to persist. And we're being fed a rake of BS. But they stand there and they still, to this day, try to convince you that their fake version of events is in fact the reality of the matter.
The solution, however, depends on the willingness of member states to take part in solidarity efforts. The ongoing situation also shows once again how urgently predictable and sustainable solutions are needed in the Mediterranean, something the Commission...
And what do they mean when they refer to sustainable developments? Solutions, sustainable solutions. I wonder what that could be. Could it be the facilitation of safe, regular and orderly migration? Promote the regular channels, promote a stream of legal migration because it's a human right. You know, the UN Migration Compact, brought about as a result of the so-called refugee crisis turned migrant crisis. Sustainable solutions and solidarity and compassion for fake refugees to be able to live their lives here as fake asylum seekers and so on. Fucking. You know, it's like they're going for the motions again. These people are migrants, but you know, we'll pretend they're refugees for the sole purpose of convincing the public that these people need to be let in. We are going for the motions. You're actively picking up people that you know yourself are migrants and taking them over here. So what separates them from a refugee and or an asylum seeker at this point? Because at the end of the day, the majority of the people that come over here on a regular basis, thanks to the NGOs, are migrants. So why is it that they refer to migrants when it suits them? But when it comes to trying to get public or government policies to be enacted or get public support and so on and so forth, or if they try to conjure up sympathy, etc., for action to be taken, they always start referring to them in the context of refugees. They're just poor refugees, women and children, refugees and asylum seekers. They're migrants. You know, I could give him the benefit of the doubt and just say that his soy-infested balls and a craving for attention have somewhat compromised his grasp on reality. But I think it's safer to assume that he's just one of the proverbial establishment-funded celebs who always seem to come out from time to time to dictate what we should and shouldn't do and how we should and shouldn't feel and so on.
People rescued here.
Rescued. Interceptions and rescue. These words, they get thrown about constantly, and they've been thrown about so often that they seem to have slotted in very nicely with common talking points with people that are blatantly reading from rehearsed scripts for the most part. Nonetheless, they're not being rescued. They're the two boats that were rescued. The word rescued, it's just becoming so old at this point. I mean, call it what it is. Meeting points, pickup points, taxi services, naval Ubers. I don't know, take your pick. But a rescue mission? No.
All hands on board would have been lost. So the people that you see here on this boat, they're only here because of the donations to Open Arms.
No, they're only here because they knew fine well that there would be an NGO waiting for them if they jump on their inflatable boat with their life jackets and set sail. All they had to do was come out a few nautical miles and lo and behold, the Open Arms Foundation would be sitting patiently waiting for them with blankets and food aboard.
And now the most important thing for these people here is to be able to get to a free port.
To get to a free port and to... The most important thing for these people is to be able to get to a free port. Is that so? And what grants economic migrants the right to access a free port?
Get off the boat, get on land and start a new life.
And get on land and start a new life. Again, referring to what would happen in the confines of an application being accepted for an asylum seeker / refugee. But it's not any of the aforementioned that we're talking about, is it? We're talking about a bunch of economic migrants, African men mainly, young men, that couldn't be factoring anything in their own countries, so thought they would chance their arm in Europe. Or are they all doctors and psychologists? Who knows at this point, wouldn't surprise me. Great guy. These guys think you're a